What's up, beautiful viewers? Yeah, today we're trying to do a pen drawing of I call this one the stone, man of stone. I started off by just putting down layout because I didn't want to stay too long on this starting up when I was when I'm making a stream. It's gonna take a while before you get into before I start giving you the tips on how to do something like this, the pen draw. So I decided to start off and just make use the pencil, sorry, to just draw it as fast as I can. Then I start streaming and start working with the pen so that when you guys tune in, I would have something to show for. Then I can start describing how to move from there. So with this one, it's basically a man made of stone. That's the whole premises of the idea, right? It's a man made of stone. We don't stress too much about certain things that I would explain later on in the video. So with this shading, or how to make this one pop more, we'll be shading it in 5 levels, right? Be shading it in 5 levels. So level 1, we're just gonna do the layouts as we've already done. Level 2, we'll add some values to the layout. Level 3, we'll identify the highlights, the shadows, and the midtones. We're gonna do that. And with level 3, we'll identify the source of light. Then after that, we would identify a couple of things from there, right? So that's what we'll be working on today. So first of all, as we've already done with the layout, I'm just trying to work with the details, right? And something that you got to pay attention to is with the face, any areas which they can fold into, that's flexible, the details is going to be much smaller, right? But if it's a place that which is big, for example, the forehead, for instance, it's not going to fold into itself, although when you would have some couple of wrinkles here and there, but the scales will be a bit different from this area with the eye would be a little bit smaller, much smaller compared to the forehead. And please forgive me when I'm talking and I'm repeating myself or I pause. It's just because I'm thinking and I'm drawing at the same time. It's more like I'm interrupting the flow of the art because I'm still in the process of creating whilst I'm trying to explain what I'm doing. So it's gonna be a little bit lagging. Yeah. So bear with me when I'm talking and all of a sudden I pause. All right. Try to understand me as of what I'm talking about. All right. So we're going to do more here. All right. We're gonna continue with the eye, and I'm gonna add more details here in this side of the eye, because it's gonna be it's folded into it, right? But before that, I would like to add a little bit more values here. I'll try to grab a pencil to outline that area so that you can see more. For example, here, this area is going to be much more dark, right? And here as well is going to be much more dark. So we're going to do it like this. Get it? Yes. And as it goes, I soften it out like that. We're going to do a lot more work when we get to 3. Right now, I just want you guys to understand the image we're trying to create right now, right? So as we have this, as you see the eyes here, there's going to be a couple of wrinkles as well in this side. We get the wrinkles in with this side as well, and here we get a little bit more wrinkles in, right? Get some wrinkles in. We get wrinkles in here for the eyes. Right, and when we come here, we're going to do the same as well. Right, we're just going to follow the pattern that I've already created as a basis for building upon this. Right, so here it's more like this. Exactly, chest is. If this was a pre-recorded video for this areas, you know, I was just going to speed over it so that I don't eat too much of your time. However, since it's a live video, I get to explain how to get these effects. And you have to keep in mind that when you're drawing these things, understand that in nature there's nothing which flows in a straight line, right? So even with this, these cracks on the faces, it's not going to be a straight line, right? It's not going to be a straight line. We're going to have wiggles, crooked lines, wiggles, crooked line, wiggles, crooked line, and wiggles, crooked line all over. Right? When you try to go straight, it doesn't look and it doesn't appear and it won't appear natural, right? So it's always best keep in mind that in nature, nothing goes in a straight line, right? So when you have that in mind, right? Moving on, you just have to draw. You just have to move it. Keep moving with that. With that stem went off, so I have to relight this stage. Pardon me for that. So yeah, just double it like that. So that's how it's gonna have. We get here to the nose. You remember when I was saying that for areas which it's more flexible, the pattern will be much smaller. Exactly. So for this face here, he's going to be having let's say wrinkles, or he'll be smiling. So these scales here will be way smaller on his cheeks, right? But not every one of them, right? Some of them would be, for example, your cheekbones. When you smile, your cheekbones, they don't, what was the right word I'm looking for? Should I say wrinkle? Yeah, they don't wrinkle, right? You never see any with a cheekbone wrinkle while he's smiling. However, this lower part of your cheeks. When you smile, you realize that it's just gonna wrinkle itself out, right? So that's what you gotta keep in mind when you are doing this, right? And this part of the build of the drawing might seem a little bit redundant and boring, but it's the boring stuff that really matters, right? Whenever you're trying to create something, the boring stuff, the mundane stuff, it's really what gets the job done, right? So you take your time and you do it, you execute it as well as possible. So it's time for you to build upon it. You wouldn't have to do too much to build upon it. You feel me? It would be much interesting for me to, for example, this area add a bit of depth so that you guys can have some sort of understanding of what I'm trying to create, right? Like here, for instance, if I shade here, right, it's when I add a little bit of values here and there, you start to see that the image is starting to come alive. It doesn't seem as flat, as boring as without it, right? So you just keep that at heart, and we'll be doing more of this. And with this, the image would be a lot more interesting, or should I say, a lot more alive with what we want to do, right? So I'll just pause there and I'll just continue this. I just wanted to do this so that you have this, you have a direction of where we're trying to head. Does it make sense? Anyways, if you understand what I'm saying, drop me a message chat and let's see. If you don't understand anything as well, kindly leave me a message and let me see how best I can respond to the misunderstanding, right? All right, so we're going to continue here. There's going to be a lot more wrinkles on the eye. I think this male, he's about, say he's in his early 50s, about 52, late 40s. So he's definitely going to have a couple of wrinkles on his faces, and we have that. Right, and the eyebrows, there's a lot of work that we might need to do over here. However, we would need a lot of patience to execute it as well. Remember, like I said, the boring stuff is the important stuff. So I set in all this positioning of how far I want this to go. When it's time to shade this, oh god, it'll be so good. I can't wait to shade. But yes, as I was saying, so you take your time, you lay down these patterns, these values, all right, and keep it wiggle, right? Never draw a straight line in nature. It's never possible. If you want to prove me right or prove me wrong, whenever you go out, take a look at nature, observe certain things, look online for a couple of pictures and see if you can identify anything which is straight in nature. If you have, I would like to know. All right, I really love it if I can get such information. But anyways, as of now, I haven't found anything which is of right. So I'm gonna keep this as it is. Not as it is. I mean, I'm just gonna follow the outline. I wouldn't try to create too much because most when I use pencil as base, I use the pencil for it to be a guide, right? Or a navigation system for direct me on where I want to go. You get it? So I wouldn't want to think too much when I'm working. Yeah. So if you pay attention, you'd realize that I'm not really following it 100%. I'm just I'm just using it as a system to help me move faster, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna shade in here. And before I forget to mention, I'm using the 02, right? I'm using the 02 micron pen to do this, right? Right, is that shade in it, and how you shade. I'm gonna explain this pretty soon on how you can get the values and the shadows of this man, right? I'm gonna explain that in a bit. Let me finish with these stones here. And then I know that I'm almost pretty done with it. So here, that's it, right? Now, when we're shading it, we're gonna shade below, all right? We're gonna shade below of it. What do I mean by that? So every line that we want to shade, or every crack or every stone that we want to shade, we're gonna shade below. And by so doing, you would be able to have, for example, if I want to shade this one, for instance, I'm gonna shade here. I'm gonna darken this line, right? Just gonna darken this line here, exactly like that. And here, I'm just gonna continue with the bar, right? So this sort of thickness belongs to this one. It doesn't belong to this. It belongs to this crack here, right? And I'm just gonna make it random, and after I will select which ones to polish, right? So here I'm just gonna clean this one up like that, right? But what's gonna be much more interesting is I'm sorry guys, I froze a bit. What's gonna make it much more interesting is when we start adding in the highlights above it, right? So here you realize that this one feels a bit up and this one feels a bit down, and here is lower, right? But that is just because of the number of shadows, the height of the shadows that I shaded, that is giving it this feeling, right? So we're just gonna move around and make some more of those, right? Right, exactly like that. Now I'm gonna come here darken his wrinkles under his eyes. So for that, I'm gonna change my pen. I'm gonna use probably, I'm gonna go up one. I'm gonna use 0.3. I'm gonna use 0.3 for that area here. I'm gonna do 0.3 here, right? I'm gonna do 0.3. Right. So now, as you see it, the thickness and the face is becoming, should I define? Right. It's looking much more like, okay, we know what is going on here, right? So as I'm working on the face, I'm just gonna start tackling the eyebrows. I'm just gonna tackle the eyebrows and that. Right, so we have this so far, right? I'm gonna start working on with the eyebrows. So with the eyebrows, you just make spikes, right? The first part, you just don't overthink it, just spikes. However, when you start moving this way, you start dialing it in a little bit, but still with spikes, right? Start dialing it in a little bit more. Right. Gonna have it like this. Right. It's looking a bit messy and it's not too natural. So we're gonna come in more and make it much smaller. Make it the spikes much smaller and unified. We're gonna make some of them out a bit, so like this. These ones. It doesn't have to. Not all of them have to be unified. It doesn't look natural for a man. No, I don't know. But if some man would line their eyebrows, yeah, it's okay. Oh, but mostly we don't get that. So for that reason, we're just gonna. I don't even know if I'm making sense. We're just gonna leave this place a bit more messy. You feel me? Exactly. Not Messi, the footballer, but you know what I mean. When we come here, and I'm gonna do more rock on the forehead. Right. There you go. Polish the outline a little bit more, right? but we're not going to waste too much time there because it's not yet time to do that. So we're just going to come here and keep shading in the adding more values to Dax. Right, remember the pen I'm using is O3. We are done with the O2. Not like we're done, we're still gonna find it and use it later on. But at the moment, we're pausing on it and adding more values like that. Right. So we're just gonna darken this. I think what's gonna be more interesting is when we get to level 4 and we start adding shadows to the cracks. So like this. Then we add in more values here and there. Exactly. Now I'm gonna go above it. Add some values here. Shade them. Shade this place. And shade here. Go like this. The most tricky part is when you're about to do the tones. Like for example, if I have to shade this part like this, right? That's gonna be a bit tricky when we start like to do it, right? Like if you need to shade like this to emphasize on certain areas, that's what's going to be tricky because some of them, because it's cracks, not all of them follow the same. It's not a flat ground, so some of them will be protruding in one side, another side it's going to be much more flat, right? So because there's no reference for this, you are just creating it out of your mind. Okay, sometimes you might have reference, it's easier for you to have reference, but in this situation when I'm doing abstracts, I like to, just be in a flow state and just create it regardless of how it comes out, if it's right or not. I just want to be in that space and create it. And with guided principles, although you are in the flow state, you will definitely create something good, right? So it's a very good exercise for you to practice. Just don't think too much when you are creating art. Just be in the state and just kill it, just keep now when we come here, we're gonna do something special here, but not now. Just have to finish with one or two things. Get the whole upper face well cleaned up. Now the nose here, if you pay attention to the contours I'm drawing, I'm following the outline of the nose. I'm not just, you know, just putting stuff out there. It's like here it follows, right? Here also follows the main outline, which is this one, right? So this is something that it can't go wrong, because if it does, the whole drawing is going to appear so flat. And trust me, with pen drawing, you wouldn't want to have that. If it's a pencil drawing, then you have if it's a pencil sketch, you would have an opportunity to, you know what I mean, to erase it. But with pen, oh my God, you don't. And if you want to fix it, you would have to read it to make the whole image very dark. And if you are not lucky, it's going to ruin the whole work. So it's very advisable to take your time when you're trying to execute something like that. Right? That's just my thoughts. I don't know how accurate it is for different people. You know, we all have different experiences when we are trying to do something like this. So with this, I'm just gonna keep it as I'm trying to do. Take my time and shade it in, right? Shade these areas patiently, right? There's some places you might just want to paint it all up dark, right? Not for you to overthink it. Relax. This is your personal creation, so anyhow you feel it makes it work. If you want to add different elements to it, so be it, you know, but always keep in mind you need to enjoy the process, right? Because if you do enjoy the process, it's much easier for it to, you know, it's much easier for you to relate to what you're doing and create something meaningful. Because when you're enjoying it, you're definitely going to be in the flow state, right? In the flow states, there are no mistakes. They are just you being connected to, I like to say, the universe. All right, so you just, I'm sorry, I'm speaking in pause and I'm interrupting myself. My thought process. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so adding a little bit more details here and there, and I shade well as I do so. And here, all right, go a bit more darker. All right, there's gonna be wrinkles here. These wrinkles is gonna come through like this, and it's gonna block this. So it's either I stop it here or I make this crack higher like this, you know, and I'm gonna add a little bit of values into this thing here. All right. Like this. Feel me? Like that. Exactly. So it looks more like the crack from the wrinkle here continues into the, it just don't stop here. Right? Alright, so we have this one, and I'm gonna add a little bit, change the pen, add some values on top of the rocks here. Add some values here. All right, so I'm just adding in these values, and remember, wherever you put a crack, you need to add in a little shadow to make it pop, you know, to make it stand out, to make it believable. You make it feel like this creature, or this art that you're creating, it leaves, it grew out from the pages of your book. It's not just an art on the book. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So it feels more like, oh, this thing is leaving on the book, right? Alright, so you have that, you have that, should I say, element. Alright, then you go this way. Right, and if you pay attention to how I'm trying to shade these things, it's mostly that I make, first of all, let me find a place that I want to shade. All right, let's do here, right? First of all, I would want to, first of all, I like sources always moving. First of all, I would like to have, which one did I say I want to do? All right, this one. So I would first make longer strokes, faint longer strokes, right? Then after I go back again and make shorter that, right? So you feel like the shadow is laid off, right? Or it's bleeding. Right? So we're gonna have this. I'm gonna start working on here. So this part of the face, I wouldn't do so much. I'm just gonna do these soft strokes, add in mild values here, right? And it won't stop here, just like these stones wouldn't stop here. I like to blend it in a little bit, right? So it feels like he's breaking from this part, and or breaking from this part, and it's getting worse to his eyes, or let's say he has an infection or something. You can call it anyhow. You can give it a reason to how best fits, you understand, right? So I'm just gonna go in and make this with these ones some strokes like this, right? And I come here, I'm gonna make this a little more darker. There you go. Then I come here, make this a little more darker. His nostrils and around his nostrils, because I want to emphasize on this then more. So here gets darker. I leave a little bit of space here because of the, whenever you see a bump here, the bump would be lighter, and when it goes a dent will be darker, right? Keep that in mind. So you have that, and I'll just, you know, just be adding my strokes like that. Now you could probably feel that this part is coming alive, right? It's becoming more vivid, right? So I'm just, and if you pay attention to the strokes I'm applying, you'd realize that the strokes feels more like Nikes, right? The swoosh sign, right? That's because of this sign here. That's because of the direction or the contour of this lip here. That's what I'm following. I'm not just drawing any stroke. Right, and when I get here, I'm following this one, the upper lip. I'm following that. I should draw my contours. All right. So you probably will keep that in mind. So I'm having this. Might want to change this a bit. And this one might be a little bit here like this. Yeah, I would want to change it. Make it like this. You see, that's sometimes why I like to do the pencil outline first before I dive in with the pen. Right? Because how do I put it? I don't know a lot at the moment, so I really try to stay too much on one. Or I have a lot of ideas whilst I'm working. So as I work, something else hit me, and I'll take that as inspiration, and I'll probably erase what I had before or update it a little bit and keep working. All right. I'm gonna have this one, right? And here, just going this way, I'm gonna add a little bit of value here. trying to add in this something different. Let's just say, like, if you didn't have this and you watch it, it might feel like it's a well. You add in a little bit cracks, right? You add the cracks in, and you keep shading them, right? So here we are in this is more like, let's say, stage 3. So we'll be going to stage 4, which would be tackling individual surfaces so we can identify highlights and the midtones of each crack. This way the cracks would pop more and be more 3-ish. I hope it makes sense. So yeah, I'm gonna have this in like that. I'm gonna go to the forehead. I'm gonna tackle it a little bit. So I'm just adding simple values at the moment, just vertical shapes. Alright, not too much, not anything fancy. Just good old vertical shapes. Alright, add the vertical shapes. Okay. Alright, and his face below his eyes, adding some vertical shapes as well. Adding vertical shapes here. Alright, it's just easier. Long vertical shapes. Then I'm gonna come here, right? Because of his cheekbones gonna be here, so this area I'm gonna add some strokes here to emphasize. So these pens is just gonna vertical. Nothing too fancy that I don't think you can't do. All right, just adding some values and detail to it. So like for instance here, you see that this area is becoming well defined, right? But this place, we're not gonna touch it yet. We're just gonna touch the areas and these areas. Like for instance, we come to this part of the nose. We're gonna add in more values here, right, to pronounce it much properly, right? Right. Then here as well. Then we're gonna do much more here. Just vertical stroke, right? But as you do the vertical strokes, you have to keep in mind that the this area of, because we want to emphasize here and leave the cheekbones, right? So you keep in mind that just this area we emphasize, and so here and we leave this part, and we would do here and we leave this part, for instance. You get it? So I'm gonna add in a little more of these. Just go down, right? Yes. I'm gonna come to the face. I made a little bit of an update here when I was I'm just gonna grab my pencil and just eraser and just erase it off, right? And add in more values here, add in more values here, right? Then after, I'm gonna go to the nose, add some values there as well, right? So here for the values, I'm just gonna follow the nose, the contours of the nose, draw the strokes in a circular motion. All right. And beneath it, make it much more darker. Right, exactly like this. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful monster. So we have this, right? I'm gonna go a little bit above here, his nose. And scrub it down, scrub it down, scrub it down. I'm not gonna do too much because we're gonna do the mid-tones later. Right now, we're just adding values to define some areas we would want to go. We'll go harder on some areas which we would leave it as is, right? So for these ones, so the corner of this side is going to be much darker, right? And this areas as well. just keep in mind vertical strokes, right? And when you want to work more on it, then you would give it the values which follows the contours of what you are doing, right? So like this, I'm gonna go in more and pronounce it some more, right? So here we're gonna do a lot more work here because this is his eyelid, right? I'm gonna change my pen and go a thicker one. This is 03. We're gonna give him a little bit of eyelashes, although it's a stone. Come on, he would still have some eyelashes. Well, probably his eyelashes are made of lead, right? So you add in those values. I feel like I hope you can see them. Right? Yeah. Now we change and we go back to the old two. We're gonna add in more values here. Right? Adding these values, just shading them. Right? We have these values in here. We're just cracking them up, right? Yeah, now you feel like this place is much more defined, right? So I'm gonna come in here, continue my strokes, add the strokes here, add in the strokes. Alright, I'm gonna do a little bit more work here on the forehead. I don't really like how it's looking. Right. So with that, I'm gonna add a little bit of details on the forehead, right? Just some places. Not too much. Right. Just like this. Exactly. Gonna make it like this. Shade it a little more. go down to this part and let's see what best we can make of it. So I'm going to continue with the cracks, right? Remember, nothing moves in a straight line. So you see how my lines are moving, right? I'm gonna add in this lower part where we're gonna do the cracks as well. Right, do the cracks and do the cracks here. Do the cracks. Do the cracks. Go easy on it. So I do fractured of scales here, and I shade them. So it's not, doesn't look natural, like the whole space here is breaking up and just this area isn't, there's nothing happening there. So you have to add in a little bit more for these cracks. So keep up adding the values, right? I'm just adding a lot of values here. For this area, we're gonna make it the highlights here, highlights, 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 right? Hey, my good friend, how are you? Today's Friday, bro. I'm good. How was your day, man? So what did you do today, man? Hey, and by the way, did you see the movie How to Train a Dragon? What do you think about it? All right, man. If you're going offline, I'll see you in my next live, all right? Thanks for stopping by, bro. I appreciate that. So here, what I'm trying to achieve is I'm gonna give a direction to the rocks, each of them. So now we're on stage 4, and what we have to do is now define the art, add a lot more details to some areas, make the stones much more defined in which direction they are coming from, work a little more on the eyebrows. The lower part here needs to be a lot more darker, so we're going to emphasize on that. Gonna throw more light on it, emphasize on these parts. This is emphasize on this part. Yeah, emphasize here. Okay, so we have this part down. We're gonna add in more definition to this stage, add in more values, the shadows, the wrinkles, to adding in more depth to the wrinkles here, to the rocks as well. Like basically exactly, right? So here we're just trying to define this crack here, adding a little bit more values of the shadows, make it pop some more. Right? So when you're doing this, one thing you have to keep in mind is follow the contours of the shape. Right, just follow the contours. There's no one direction that you would have to follow. You remember when we're doing this, we're going all in one direction for the adding the highlights, but with these ones you just follow any direction that contour follows. Right, we have this one in like that. Right, and I'm gonna add a little bit more here. Alright, so we define it as such. I'm gonna work a little bit more here. Right, so it's not something that it's overwhelming or something that's still difficult to do. I find this very therapeutic, just because you're just repeating the same thing over and over and over. You're not really doing anything that is hard to imagine or anything that is unheard of. It just repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So as you do that, after the first couple of times, you realize that you become at ease and you just keep going over the same stuff, and the subconscious take over when you're doing such things. And when it does, you realize that you become at ease. Okay, I don't know, but for me it works perfectly. It's quite a different thing because right now I'm streaming, so how do I even phrase? I'm streaming, so I'm talking through it. So somehow I'm trying to be in that state and also trying to be conscious to explain what I'm doing. If not, this. So you would realize that when I'm speaking, as to a point, then I freeze, or I'm speaking and I pause on what I want to say. It's not because I don't really know what I'm saying. It's pretty that I'm interrupting my flow, right? So I'm designing it, and I'm just switching between my conscious and my subconscious whilst I work, you know what I mean? So it's like that. So I'm gonna add in some strokes here. Okay. Try to set the tone for okay. So now we come here beneath his nostrils, make it more darker. Mm, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna go for 5 because this area needs to be much darker, right? Yeah, exactly like that. Beautiful. So I'm using 505 for this one, right? And this eyebrow. Okay, so yep, there we have it, right? There's a lot more that needs to be done with this part, right? But since it's an abstract art, I won't stress too much about it. I would I'll leave it as it is, tidy it up a little more, you know, on artwork done when the artist says it's done. There's no ways to, I can keep refining it and polishing it. However, I feel I'm pretty satisfied with the results here. If I go too much, it might, I'm not sure I might like it in that extent. So I would just just leave it here as it is then. Yeah. So that's it for today, guys. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much. If you have any question, kindly leave me in the comments or in the chats. Thank you so much. Kindly like, subscribe. Alright. And I'll see you in the next chat. Alright. Peace out.